every dating app is owned by one mega corporation. I know, it doesn't look like that. The illusion of choice is strong in the online dating game, but who is this company? How did they manage to get a monopoly on love? And is it a good idea for a for-profit entity to control who gets to be happy? Spoiler, it's not good. Part 1. A brief history of love online. During the dot-com boom of the 1990s, Stanford graduate Gary Kremen started buying up domain names like auto.com, sex.com, and match.com. He aimed to replicate newspaper classifieds online and started a company called Electric Classified. If you were born after the turn of the millennium, you might not know what classifieds or newspapers are. Basically, they were little ads that went at the back of the paper that anyone could take out. They usually cost less than a regular advert, and people would use them to sell a car or find a wife, or both if you were lucky. And if you don't know what a newspaper is, encarter it. Gary's plan was to auto.com replace the car section, jobs.com to replace the jobs section, match.com was going to replace the dating section, and I have tried to research what happened to sex.com, but my ISP won't let me access it, so I'm going to assume the Russians own it. I don't know. You've got to remember this was the 90s. The internet wasn't developed at all, and photos of women would take days to load, like they were doing some sort of digital strip tease for you. The problem Gary didn't foresee is that the digital classifieds, not unlike the printed ones, had a slim shady reputation, where people were worried about fake ads, scams, and dick pics. Some things never change. Fast forward to 1996, and Gary was fighting with his investors, so quit his own company. But in lighter news, Dolly the sheep was born, and if you were based in the UK, if you're honest, that's all you'll remember from that year. The new ownership for online dating was too risky and sold off Match.com in 1997 to Barry Diller. Now, Barry's LinkedIn tells us he formally launched the Fox network and ran Paramount Pictures and 20th Century Fox as a company's chairman. But more importantly for this video, he's the chairman at IAC. Barry thought the future was in online media, and his company, IAC or Interactive Corp, purchased a bunch of other online companies and then made deals with AOL and MSN. Do you remember them? Sidebar, but is anyone else really glad that WhatsApp doesn't have a nudge feature? They also sponsored the physical classified section of the New York Times magazine, and the circle of life was complete. They also made weird adverts in the early noughties aimed at fighting the stigma around online dating. Somehow, these adverts worked and the stigma was broken down over time, and eventually online dating and cybersex were used as plot points in both TV shows and films, which I'm sure he had nothing to do with given his previous connections in both TV shows and films. Fast forward to 2009 and Match.com becomes Match Group, and Match Group started buying up other dating brands like it was going out of fashion. Match Group doesn't like competition, so they thought it would be best for everyone if they just owned everything rather than improving the service or innovating as a result of a free marketplace.
What's the matter, guys? Too challenging for you?
Starting with OkCupid in 2011 for a budget-friendly $50 million, that's £9.60 in today's money. Then they purchased PlentyOfFish for a slightly less budget-friendly $575 million. That's billions with an M. And today they own 45 dating apps, 4 of which are in the top 5 most popular apps for finding your sex opponent. Part 2. Mobile apps. In 2013, only 5 years after Steve Jobs launched the App Store, Apple's revenues from the store hit $1 billion from the million apps that were available. In that same year, Match Group noticed that 33% of their signups were coming from mobile devices. That increased to nearly 70% in 2015. This was clearly helped by the launch of Tinder. Now, Tinder, unlike their other brands, was created in-house at IAC. When Tinder launched, they basically did what everyone else did at the time, and still do now. Namely, make the service free, get the biggest audience possible, and then work out how to make money from it later. Probably by ruining the experience for all the users, but by that point there are no other apps available and you can do whatever you like. Basically, enshittification. Full video on that here. Tinder perfected the swipe motion for dating, and I think I speak for everyone when I say, thanks for that. All other apps followed suit and became Tinder with a twist, except Hinge. Hinge did not want to become another Tinder, and they actually started dunking on them in their adverts. But the M. Night Shyamalan twist is that Match Group didn't care. In fact, they liked that there was an anti-Tinder, as long as they owned it. So they bought it, which brings us to today, where Match makes so much fat dollar, yo. For my English viewer, that's fat King Charles is. Match are one of 3 major Western dating services to be floated on the stock exchange, with the others being Bumble, who own Bumble, and Grindr, who own Grindr. Part 3. Data. It'll come as no surprise to any of you that having one mega corporation own all the apps which we need to use to find love, sex, and relationships is going to be an issue. And if that does come as a surprise to you, it might be your first time to this channel, in which case, hit the subscribe button, motherfucker! In the interest of fairness, Match Group's official PR line says that, unlike other technology companies, our revenue and success is not driven by monetizing users' data for advertising sales, rather by providing valuable and enjoyable platforms for which our users willingly pay us directly. I said I'd include it to be fair. I did not say I wouldn't put on a silly voice while reading it. I'm fair, but biased. Now call me cynical McBoat cynicism, but this says differently, as does this article. In essence, Match Group are using a magic sentence. They technically do not sell your data. It's sort of like how Charles Manson didn't technically kill anyone, but he definitely got other people to do that for him. The difference is subtle, so I'll walk you through it. They could sell our data to data brokers and then it would just get lost in the mix and sold to whoever has the biggest wallet. But instead, they keep the data and just allow advertisers to tailor their adverts to the audience they want using our data. It's a bit like when Jif rebranded to Sif. I mean, sure, there is a technical difference there, but the end result is pretty much the same.
A beautiful floor with 100% of rough stains removed.
They sometimes don't sell the data, but they sure as fuck do share the data. This is where they give away a free license or just give the data to a marketing partner as a part of a wider deal. By showing the marketing partner that they have X number of users who fit the target audience that they want to, well, target, the idea is that that marketing partner will spend money with them down the line. And OkCupid have about 300 of these marketing partners that we know about. And that's putting aside the fact that Match Group will give your data to the police if they ask nicely. And they share data on users across all of their apps behind the scenes. Part 4. Hang on a minute, voiceover Simon. Before we move on, I'd like to talk about that willingness thing they mentioned. Match Group claim they provide valuable and enjoyable platforms which people are willing to pay them for directly. I call bullshit. 75% of people on dating apps are men, except on Grindr where the percentages are higher, but that's a different issue. Using only 3 swipes, on average a woman will get 10 matches per day and a man, a very average man, will get 0.6 matches a day. So in order for a man not to die alone, they will need to pay for more swipes. I feel like you're implying the only way to meet someone is to actually go out and search for them in real life. I'm actually heavily implying that, me in a hat, but I'm also not going to do that. So it's not exactly a willing choice when the odds are stacked against you like a Vegas casino. Anyway, carry on, voiceover me. Part 4. Other problems. Let's put aside data for a second and look at the real, tangible issues in one company owning all of these apps. Firstly, it makes it very hard for a new app to break through and find a following because nobody wants to be the first one on a dating app. Secondly, it gives them a stranglehold over pricing and pricing structures within this industry. This means they can increase the price of in-app purchases or subscriptions across the whole marketplace in one go. And we will just have to grin and bear it. Thirdly, it gets us over a barrel, and we just have to agree to their terms of service if we want to meet someone the new-fashioned way. And finally, and most importantly, we lose out on an industry that could be interesting and innovative. There's no reason for them to put us first when we don't have another choice. As a result, the design, features, and experiences are becoming homogenized, bland, and repetitive. It's led to us becoming more superficial and shallow, and with more people than ever feeling disposable and burnt out. It's also melting our mental health, juggling multiple people at once, because we've been conditioned to think, well, if I just keep swiping, I will find someone better. And it's had a direct impact on the amount people overthink messages, worried that they'll become a screenshot in a WhatsApp group, or worse, a public-facing Facebook group. Ultimately, the shareholders win and we all lose, and I want to swipe left on all of this. Godspeed.